Well, howdy, neighbor. It's time for another episode of Maniac Math with Mrs. Carell. Make sure you have your worksheet, which would look something like this. Get started. Hey, by the way, there's a secret code that I'm going to be giving you while we're in here. It's a secret word for a secret prize. So I'm not going to write these letters down. You need to, but you make sure you're listening so you get the correct letters written down. The first letter you need to write down somewhere and save is the letter F. Well, I have been racking my brain trying to figure out how I can make subtraction make a little bit more sense. So, this is what I came up with. Let's see how it goes. All right, right now we just need to pretend that we have $725. That's what we have up here. We want to spend $358. Okay, seems pretty straightforward. But remember when I was telling you last week, you need to look at which columns do I need to borrow for? Which one of these columns has a bigger number on the bottom? Well, this first column does, the second column does, the third column does not. So our ones need borrowing for and our tens need borrowing for. But we don't borrow from themselves, we borrow from the next column over. So as you can see over here, the number 5 is in a purple square over here. And the number 2 is in a blue square. Well, whenever we have a number that is bigger on the bottom and we need to borrow from the guy next door, we need to take the guy next door and we need to split them. So you can see I have 2 blue squares. So I'm going to take the 2 and I'm going to split it into 1 and whatever's left over. So what that looks like, when I took the 2, I got rid of it and I split it into 2 parts. I only needed 1 for the next guy, so whatever was left happens to be just 1. Well, now we can subtract because right here we have 15. What's 15 take away 8? 15 take away 8 leaves us with 7, and you can see I have a 7 right down here in my answer. Okay, I have 1 left in my tens column and I need to take 5 away from it. I don't have enough. I only have 1. I need to take away 5, so I need to borrow from next door. What I'm going to do is take this number that is in green and I'm going to split it into 1 and whatever's left. This is what it looks like. I took that 7 and I split it into 1 and whatever was left, which was 6. Now, since I had already borrowed from this column and I had to put something up here before, the one that I just used from the 7, it stays up here with this guy. But being as it's green, we know it originally came from here. And so now I have 11, and I can subtract out the 5. 11 and I take away 5, I end up with 6. Now the only thing left to do is the hundreds column. I still have 6 hundreds left over, and I need to take away 3 hundreds. When I have 6 hundreds and I take away 3 hundreds, what do I get? 3 hundreds. So 725 minus 358 gives me 367. That was our sample problem. Now we're going to go ahead and do problems on your worksheet. So in the box where it says, or in the area where it says number 1, we're going to do this problem together. Problem number 1, we have 543 minus, or take away, 72. Let's take a look at which columns are we going to need to borrow for, not from, which ones have a bigger number on the bottom. Does this one have a bigger number on the bottom? Nope, it has a 2 on the bottom, which is smaller than 3, so this column is okay. How about this one? Yes, it has a 7 on the bottom and a 4 on the top. We're definitely going to need to borrow. So since we don't have to do anything for the ones column, we can just go ahead and subtract. Your next secret letter is the letter A. And 3 minus 2 is 1. Now we need to borrow for this guy. Well, we're in the blue square. Our 4 is in the blue square or the tens column, so we have to borrow from something bigger, which happens to be the hundreds column. The number in the green or hundreds column happens to be a 5. So we're going to split that 5 out into a 1 and whatever's left. Okay, when I split the 5 out into 1 and whatever's left, this is what I get. 4 and 1 makes 5. So all I did was split that 5 into 2 pieces, and I gave the 1 over here to this 4. So now I have 14. I can certainly take 7 away from 14. Your next secret letter is the letter L. When I do that, I get 7 because 7 plus 7 is 14, so 14 minus 7 is 7. And I crossed out the 5 because I split it into 2 parts, 1 and whatever's left. So whenever you're borrowing from the next column over, it's going to be 1 and whatever's left. So now I just have a 4 left in my hundreds column and nothing to subtract from it. So that leaves me with 4. 543 minus 72 gives me 471. I want you to try this problem in the area for number 2 on your own and see if you get the same thing that I get. Is this the answer that you got? Did you realize that 4 was smaller than 7, so we didn't have to borrow for the ones column? We just subtracted. 7 minus 4 is 3. But we did have to borrow for the tens column, and we took that from the hundreds column. We split this 8 that was in the hundreds column into 7 and 1. 7 and 1 makes 8. Then we could subtract because now we have 12, take away 8, which gives us 4, and we were left with 7 hundreds up here, minus nothing gives us 7 hundreds. Your next secret letter is also the letter L. Now we're going to try a problem that many 5th graders still find difficult. When we have a 0 on the top, it doesn't mean you can just bring down the bottom number. It doesn't. Look, we have $900 and we're spending $67. What's that going to look like? Well, let's give it a shot. The first thing we need to do is borrow for which columns? Well, this one certainly needs something. It has nothing to take from. This one needs to be borrowed for because it also has nothing to take from. The only place we have to borrow from is way over here. So we're going to have to split that 9 2 times so that each one of these columns gets a little bit. Since we have to borrow for both columns, we're going to start way over here in the hundreds column and the tens column. We're going to work on those. So we have to take that 9 and split it into 1 and whatever's left. Well, here's your 1 right here. What would be left if we took 1 away from 9? We would have 8 left. And now we've used the 9, so we can cross it out. But we still have to borrow for this column. Well, now that we have enough in here to borrow from, we can do that. So we're going to split this 10 into 1 and whatever's left. What would be left if we split 10 into 1 and whatever's left? If you said 9, you are correct. And now we have used this 10, but we've split it out into 2 different pieces. We split it out into a 9 and a 1. Now we can subtract. We have a 9 up here and a 6 there. That works because we don't have a bigger number on the bottom. We have 10 here and a 7 there. Don't have a bigger number on the bottom. Now we can just subtract. 10 minus 7 gives us 3. How about 10 minus 6? I'm sorry, 9 minus 6. What does that give us? 9 minus 6 gives us 3. And over here, we just have 8, and we aren't taking away anything. So 8 take away nothing gives us 8. Now this answer looks very different than what I've seen from some kids. They would have looked at this problem originally and said, well, 900 take away 67. Just drop down the 6 and the 7 because there's nothing up there, and bring down the 9. I ask you, friends, if you had $900 and you spent anything, would you come out with $967, which is more than what you started with? Probably not. Absolutely not. If you take away anything, you're going to end up with less than 900, which is what you started with. Problems 4, 5, and 6 are going to be just like number 3. So this is the problem for number 4, 700 take away 24. Problem number 5 is 500 minus 36. Do this on your paper where it says number 5. For problem number 6, I gave you a little extra challenge, but I think you can handle it. But your problem is 800 minus 194. Give those a shot.